Welcome to The Source with your host, Dr. C.T. Curry, and co-host Coby Owens. News all across the nation. The Source. Stay in the loop in the city of Wilmington, Delaware. Work together for change in the community. A call to action to find the resources. The Source, the latest in news.
Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Coby Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Today we bring you a special source because at the end of the day, we had to record much earlier, so we don't have a whole lot of news, but we got some very interesting things that we do want to talk about today. First, according to all the outlets that I have, there was no reporting shootings this week. And I want to, say, Coby, we really got to make sure we put the pressure on the police department as well as on the press that they're going to have to start sharing with the community, because I'm hearing through the grapevine, I don't know all the details, but I'm hearing through the grapevine that a lot of there are some shootings that have been covered up.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have talked about on this show multiple times is transparency and reporting of what's truly going on in our community. And that means making sure that we report out when there's bad things and when it's good things, right? We see all the photo ops and the ribbon cuttings. That's the good. But also the community has a right to know when things are taking place in their community that may harm or put their families in harm's way. And from what I'm hearing is there's been multiple shootings throughout the city of Wilmington, including one in a city park that has not been reported out to the media, or the media has not put it out as of right now.
Yeah, I think sometimes they believe, or people believe, that if we put it out there, then it'll give us a negative view. But honestly, when you're dealing with people's safety, that matters more. To know that there's some stuff going on in a certain area and to avoid it if possible, that becomes important too. I just don't know what the mindset is on why these things are not being reported.
I agree with you. And by not properly giving people the information so that they can be aware of the situation, that puts them in harm's way, right? And I know it hurts when it comes to attracting businesses here. You don't want that in the media cycle. You don't want new families who are potentially moving here to be looking at that online. I get that, but you got to be real. You cannot just put some makeup on it and make it go away. You actually have to address the issue, and then it will get better, and then it will help attract businesses and attract new families, because you're actually dealing with the situation, not just covering it up. Yeah.
Now, lately, for the last couple of months, I guess, the police department have been kind of quiet. Seems like things are at a peak. Help me to understand the process for, like, the chief. How does that work with the new administration coming in, whether it be Vela Potter or John Carney? How does it work with that position?
So for chief of police, chief of fire, both those positions are appointed positions. And what that means is they're just like any department head, right? So a new administration can put in whoever they want into any department going in, and work with the city council, and hopefully listen to the community and their transition team on who would best fit their vision for the city. The department heads help carry out the vision of the administrator, right? The executive branch, which is the mayor here in the city of Wilmington. So that whoever sits in that 9th floor office, the mayor's office, will get to determine who will carry out their vision. Now, of course, everyone's a little different, right? So while you may have a vision, the pathway to get there, some mayors are a little more flexible in the pathway to get there. And you see that all over, right? That's why it's so important to build a strong cabinet. So again, the fire chief, the police chief, they both will probably be new. I don't believe we've seen a carryover for a long term in a while, but for those two positions, we'll probably see new chiefs.
And I was going to ask in the same, like, you had already somewhat touched on it, but even with the, like the directors of the various departments, that's a mayor appointed as well.
Correct.
And do you think that there will be a shakeup in that area too, or do you think the city is doing what it needs to do?
I think regardless of who wins, I think both Velda and John probably have their own people in mind of who they want to serve out in some of those departments. Some of them, they may keep one or two just to be stable, but it's honestly up to them, and they have the final say in it. There are some good department heads out there. Mm-hmm. I'm actually a fan of both the fire chief and the police chief, right? Okay. Chief Campos is from the city of Wilmington. He was the sector captain prior to becoming chief for the West Side, right? An area that has shown some improvement, right? An area that had a lot of known violence did improve under his leadership. Mm-hmm. I think he is trying, but again, sometimes you do get up against a brick wall between your own vision and then, of course, carrying out the vision of your boss. Right. And same thing with Chief Looney. I knew him. I first met him when he was Lieutenant Looney. And I was so used. I was a fire explorer. He was in charge of the fire explorers, and I knew him as Captain Looney for so long. But Chief Looney, I think, is also trying to do a very good job with the fire department. Again, both of them have to answer to the mayor.
And the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because there are some systematic issues that the city of Wilmington has. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the director can affect it. But do you think, I guess the question I would ask is, are the people who are life members of who've been in these certain positions, like the person who's in, let me just use somebody in Illinois, not the director, but let's just, how does that work?
Outside of that, right, you have merited positions, which means these are rank and file members. They're not appointed, which means most of them are in the union. If not, them being merited means their jobs are safer than it would be for if an administration came in, right? So the mayor can't say, hey, I want this person gone because I'm the new mayor and I want someone else in this position. They would have to have just cause to really remove someone like that. Whereas with a director, it's at will, right? Mm-hmm. You serve at the pleasure of the mayor. So whenever the mayor may say, hey, I want to go in a different direction, can you tender your resignation? That may happen. It's the same thing with the presidential cabinet. Absolutely. Our county exec actually has a cabinet. Our governor has a cabinet as well, too. So again, you serve at the pleasure of whatever executive branch administrator is there.
Yeah, and most of the issues that I've heard complaints about, and I've even complained about, really wasn't at the director's level, although the director should be able to influence it. If they are strong in their position, they know how to document and remove, bad people. But a lot of it is some people who've just been in city government for so long that they do what they want to do and no one really questions them. And that's why I was going to ask you, is it because they are in a union where they really can't be touched?
So it depends. Each department is a little different. And there's multiple different unions and locals that are involved with protecting city workers. Mm-hmm. But not all city workers are union members. Mm-hmm. So again, it would have to be the department that I would have to know, but most likely what it is an individual is doing a certain job, and that's how they were told. They're usually doing it how they were told to do it, which isn't sometimes the best for the community, right. But that's the vision of the director that the director's handing down from the mayor. Well,
that happens sometimes, but I'm talking about the cases where a person has been in a position for 20, 30, 40 years, mm-hmm. and they just do it their way. And because they have not been touched, they probably nobody wants to touch them. There are people, I've heard many complaints about several departments, mm-hmm. and I don't want to say that now, but I know there are many people who are watching us and they can't get the department to do what is right for the citizens. Gotcha. Because they got a person, not the director, because we can change those, but that person probably not even listening to the director because they know they've been there. It's going to take a whole lot to remove them. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to give them advice mm-hmm. on solving their issue.
That's hard. Unless I knew exactly what it was, it's hard to kind of come up with a solution for it. Mm-hmm. The most general case would be if a department's really not doing something that's serving the people, then the council actually has the power to change policies, right? To help better influence what's going on. So I would talk to your local council person, or if you're a business owner and you don't live in a city, talk to one of the at-larges or the council president, who represent all the interests of the city.
Yeah. Okay. I just, sometimes when we are doing these shows, I hear from the public and they are very disenchanted with certain things. We know we're going to get a new mayor. Just who that person will be is going to be a question. We also believe we're getting strong candidates, but then when their directors come in, will it really be able to affect the lives of those individuals who's having some serious problems with city government? A lot of times it's not the director, other than the incompetence of the director or the weakness of the director. And that's why I wanted to make sure that I just brought that out so that people can hear. We're going to flush it out a little bit more as we move forward, and not so much today, but we are going to flush that out a little bit more because there are people who are very much interested. While I have a few more minutes, I do want to jump on this Trump's document case. It broke news on Monday, where the attorney in Florida, we knew that she was up to something. But she kind of agreed with something that Chief Justice, forgot his name, the black guy. What's his name?
Clarence Thomas.
Wait. I know who I'm talking about. And I threw it that way so that you can just immediately, but then you had to think about it.
Clarence Thomas.
But Clarence Thomas had written, and she kind of found her way of escape out of finding a way to get rid of it. But she dropped the whole case. You know anything about that?
Yeah, so one, the case had been ongoing because Trump took classified federal documents from when he was president with him when he left the White House. Right. And he probably moved these documents out prior to the actual inauguration. I wouldn't be shocked if they started moving stuff out after January 6th. But the DOJ, the Department of Justice, appointed Special Counsel Jack Smith to prosecute this case. And what it was is the Trump illegally had these documents because he was no longer president, right? And they were still classified. They had not been declassified. Now, the thing is, and this is the interesting point, if he truly wanted these documents, he didn't want anyone. If it was not a big deal, what was in these documents, he could have, as president, up until January 20th, 11:59 a.m., he could have declassified all of them. But he didn't because he wanted to keep them a secret. And then he wanted to try to hide them by hiding them in the bathroom, in the garage of his Mar-a-Lago estate. And this happened, back in 2021, and the case has been ongoing against that. Now, this, this Judge Cannon, was a judge appointed by Trump. Right? In the I think that's the South Florida district of the appeals court. So again, conflict of interest, should have recused, right? Very similar to how he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices and they came back and gave him blanket immunity while he was president. Tossed all the criminal charges, right, against Trump. So again, they did this right as the RNC, which is the Republican National Committee's convention, starts in Milwaukee. So you're going to be hearing how he was completely exonerated of trumped up charges all this week. Yeah.
Well, we may not be hearing it all this week, and we are going to spend some time talking about political violence in New York. Okay. But he's trying to spin a new tone. Both tune and tone. Yeah. And I'm really concerned that the average person who did not have money, who do not have influence, would have never gotten off like he did. Oh, this is really criminal.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the sad thing about all of this is, it just goes to show you that we really live in a dual society. Yeah. One in which our criminal justice system does not convict people based off if you're guilty or not guilty, but if you're poor or not poor.
Well, yeah.
We see two different sides of the law if you're a rich white man with privilege, right? And I say rich, but Trump is really broke. And we saw that from the New York case. But yet, because he has that name recognition, he can go into a bank and they'll give him a loan. But someone who is of the same stature with good credit and has some money in the bank, has a profitable business, they go to that same bank and ask for that same amount of money, that bank will tell them absolutely not. So again, that's what we deal with in this society. And I think this case, and all his cases kind of reflect just where we're at with this ongoing dual society, especially when it comes to our criminal justice system.
Well, I think when we talk about hatred, when we talk about anger, this is what continues to stir it. Now, we're going to, again, I'm not going to get into too much of the conversation that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But when I heard this, it angered me. Not because he's guilty, because I don't know if he's guilty or not. You didn't give me a chance to hear the facts of the case by allowing the lawyer to go through what they needed to go through. But it angered me because here we have another rich person who's able to do what they want to do, delay, get favors from people who know them, and then eventually find a loophole to drop it. And that's exactly how this case was dropped, based on where it wasn't allegedly constitutional. Do you think Jack Smith is going to appeal that?
I think he will. I think it's a tough court, right? So the 11th Circuit Court, it covers, if I remember correctly, it covers Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and it may have Mississippi, but I think Mississippi may be different. So it's the southern region, but I definitely know it's Alabama, Georgia, and Florida.
Right.
And from there, that if you look at it, right, it's 12, I was reading it earlier, it's 12 individuals who are part of that court who are the judges, right? The chief judge was appointed by Bush, but then appointed chief judge by Trump in 2020. Then you had 3 Obama appointees who are still there, and then six of them have been appointed by Donald Trump. And then I think it was a Clinton and a Biden one, right? That rounds out the 12. But 6 of them were appointed by Donald Trump. I don't know exactly where each one represents, because it's broken up into different courts. A judge oversees it's like North and South Georgia, North and South Florida, and Alabama, right? So again, I don't know exactly where everyone represents, but most likely, I believe all the Florida ones are appointed by Donald Trump as of this moment. And they did that strategically. When Trump got in, that was the one thing him, Mitch McConnell, they were able to agree on and get done. And that was they talked to a bunch of these judges who have been in for a while. And even the ones who weren't even close to retirement age, maybe had another 8 years left in them. Talk to them to say, hey, go ahead, retire now so we can appoint someone new, young, and who will be there for the next 30 years because we don't know what's going to happen. Right. And they appointed a ton of judges to those seats there. And they did it very strategically with young attorneys.
Yeah, well, she being the one who's dropping the case, she's very young and very unexperienced and was advised by some of the most experienced ones, one, to recuse herself, but also some of the way she was handling the case was just reckless. I hope that he has some grounds to appeal on, but as you were trying to convey to me, even if he does appeal, it's still going to be tough for him. Yeah. Because there's so many other people who have been appointed by the Republicans. You know, it's just really a sad day in the neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers would say. Well, he was a good day in the neighborhood, but I'm just saying now it's a sad day.
So I just looked it up, and Trump from 2017 to 2020 appointed 6 of these judges. The oldest currently, right, 4 years later, is only 56.
Wow.
The youngest right now is only 43.
Wow, that's young.
And they were all appointed up to 4, 5, 6 years ago. They did this very strategically to make sure that they could control these different courts, especially these southern courts, in a very strategic manner.
Yeah, it's a shame. And people want to give Mitch McConnell a pass, but he was the brain behind a lot of this.
I'll say this. One, people born on February 20th are some of the brightest people in the world. Just have to say that.
Yeah,
that's one thing I will give to Mitch. We share a birthday together, but all politics aside, he is a very, very good, masterful technician when it comes to politics and understanding how to utilize his numbers to get things done. And he doesn't care what the other side thinks. That's one of the downsides of the Democratic Party. We means test, right? How will Republicans feel about this? How will independents? Well, we were elected as Democrats to lead, so let's lead. The Republicans, when they're in charge, that's what they do. And they don't care what anyone else thinks. So Mitch McConnell has cared about judges for a very long time. He knew he could get Trump on board with this, and they changed the face of this nation. And these are lifetime appointments, right? They changed the face of this nation with understanding, look, we get it. The old way was you had attorneys and people who worked in public service who worked decades and decades of service, and they get to be a judge for the last, let's say 15, 20 years of their life because they've earned it. Now, all you need is a few good trials and they'll put you on a bench because they know you'll stay there for a long time. And hopefully their influence can keep you on their side. That's why they put so much money in groups like the Heritage Foundation put so much money into engaging with these judges, right? Who are supposed to be impartial, unbiased, right? But again, it's hard. It's not hard. I'll say this. This strategy is pretty easy when your senior advisor for government engagement is Jenny Thomas.
Happens to be the wife
of a Supreme Court justice who has a laundry list of unethical business dealings as a judge, ruling in cases in which his wife holds stock in companies and stuff like that, or business relationships or friends with them, flying on these people's private jets. It starts at the top and it has gone down and slowly eroded our judicial system, a system that was never set up to be fair to me and you, but a system that has been used, right, to make others wealthier and to protect them from any consequences.
So do you think that maybe it should be an act of Congress if God gives the Democrats an opportunity to get control and get a supermajority to just say, you know what, get rid of all these lifetime appointments?
I think it should be term limits. I think there should be limits. And I'm not saying it has to be identical to a presidential election. I say, for judicial appointments, they should be 12 years.
Okay.
And then once your 12 years are up, you can get reappointed. Again, that gives you enough cycles. It may be Democrat, Republican. Now it's, or whatsoever. It's a lot that can go on in those 12 years. So again, I think that gives us enough time to show what your judicial record is. If you know you have to get reappointed, you're going to be a lot more careful, right?
Thank you.
Especially if you have a lot of ethical issues going on.
Like Clarence Thomas. Yeah. I ask those questions because at the end of the day, we got all these lifetime appointments. Who cares what people think? Who cares? I'm appointed. And Clarence Thomas is really showing it now. At one point, he was quiet, but he is very much open and he's sharing and all of the unethical stuff. I can't call it illegal because when it comes out to the Supreme Court, they do what they want to do. But the unethical stuff that he have engaged in, and even his wife. And what's the other Supreme Court justice person name who flew the flag upside down?
Attilo.
He too. It's like these Republican judges, they have gotten to a place where they just do what they want to do. Because guess what? Nothing you can do. And Congress is not strategic like they need to be, especially the Democratic part of the of Congress. Mitch McConnell said to himself, we're going to take care of these courts, and then as we win the White House, we'll be able to do some other stuff. As being the minority in the Senate, he's still got so much power and influence in the world that we live in, which is called America. This is just really interesting and is very diabolical, as I call it. I'm going to take a real quick commercial break, and we're going to come back. And I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about the mayor's race, and then I'm going to come to Coby Corner at some point. But I want to just really talk about the mayor's race, and I want to talk a little bit about the surrogates debate, and we'll be right back. Hey, this is Pastor Curry, pastor of the Zion Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you can do about it. What we're going to do today is we're going to have a real good conversation. I'm excited. Come on! Why don't you call somebody real quickly? Tell them Coffee with Curry is on. And let's get after it. And we're back. Well, Coby, one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about is the surrogates debate. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the mayor's debate, if there's going to be one. First, there were some who said, great idea. Then there were others who said, no, we want to hear directly from the candidates. Both schools of thoughts are good.
Yeah, I agree with both, right? So I think it was very unique to hear from the surrogates, right? You only really see that on the presidential level where you hear from their vice president, right? At the vice president's debate. Hearing from different people on why they support the candidate and where they see the vision is, right, shows someone like me, right, who cares about the inner workings of a campaign, shows the messaging they're pitching and the mechanics they're using to kind of resonate with voters, right? So that's, for me, I love a surrogates debate, right? And I think after this, I hope others will replicate this, right? And keep something like this going. I think it's really good. But then also it's very critical to hear directly from the candidate's mouth what they're finna do. And again, like I said before, the next mayor has a very hard job walking in on day one.
Why you say that?
They need to be prepared. One of the biggest things that we're going to have to deal with, right, is public safety. And I know I'm going to mess up this word. Excuse me, because I stutter. The ambulance service.
Yeah, ambulance.
Right.
You said it right.
EMS services for the city of Wilmington is currently contracted through St. Francis. Right. That contract is ending. They said they're no longer extending that contract. It will be done in 2025. We need a plan of action on how we're going to be able to hire EMS, get them trained up if they need to be trained, and how much it's going to cost the city to actually equip them with all the turnout gear that they need to be prepared to hit the streets.
That's a mayor's issue, or is that a city council issue?
That's a mayor's issue. The mayor will have to determine. The city council will, if we do it in-house, right? It's no contractor, right? If we do go outside and have to put out a bid, then the city council has to approve it and everything. But if it's setting up a new department, it's going to take tax dollars, right? Yeah. And this is something I would support my tax dollars going to, right? But also, how will it work for the city of Wilmington? Will we have to go to Newcastle County? Or will we have our own EMS services from the city? And how will it be housed, right? I think if you add that third component, you see the badges all the time, the police, fire, and medical, right? If you add that third component, then I think the next step is also creating a Department of Public Safety. And the next mayor is going to have to make that decision. Do you want someone who oversees both all three of those directors who oversee those different departments, do you want someone whose sole purpose every day, 9 to 5, is wake up and focus on how do we make the city safer? Or do you want to keep it how it is and the mayor be the direct line right there? I would be in favor of having a public safety director again. Right. We've had that in the past.
I was going to ask you that.
We can easily bring it back, right?
But just for those who watch, I know we don't have a lot of time, but for those who are watching, that's something I do want you to try to flush out a little bit. What does it look like to be the public safety director? Tell me what that includes.
At the end of the day, it's the vision of the mayor. But in my eyes, a public safety director should look at a few things. One, how do we have safer streets and communities, right? And that means having faster police response times, making sure that we don't have to go back to the rolling blackouts with the fire departments, which means one fire department has to close in order to keep up with the demand and not go over budget. And then also with the medical services, we have a lot of shootings in the city of Wilmington,
Absolutely.
whether they report them or not. These medical services are the ones who will be responding, right? So making sure that we have enough recruitment efforts and everything to make sure we have enough to be fully capable of handling the capacity of calls that the city gets. But then also you have the call time center, right? The people who are actually taking the calls. We have to make sure we're hiring there. So it would create more city jobs with benefits, right? And that's where the council comes in, making sure those benefits are actually good for our workers, but hiring people here in the city of Wilmington or people who want to move here to the city of Wilmington, because either this old mayor, our current mayor, Pazicki, has helped develop all these brand new apartments. We want people to move into the city of Wilmington, and that's why so many people fought to make sure residency stayed in place.
Yeah. Well, you said there's a lot of shootings in Wilmington. There's a lot of people having heart attacks. There's a lot of people having medical emergencies, and we do have to make sure that we are doing what we have to do to respond to those questions, to those needs. We'll be right back.
We need volunteers, we need mentors, and we need sponsorship. So please think about donating to Duffy Soap. Go on our website, duffysoapinc.org, and donate that way. You can call us at 302-652-3532. We can take your payment over the phone. You can mail us a check at 100 West 10th Street, Suite number 9, Wilmington, Delaware, 19801. Also, you can donate your time. If you don't have money, donate your time. Come help us with the garden. Help us mentor or help be a tutor, things like that. So please think about donating to Duffy Soap.
And we're back. Well, Coby, what's going on with Coby's Corner?
Yeah, so I only have one point that I want to talk about today, and that is the rise of political violence in America. Now, I'm sure by now everyone has seen the news that there was an attempted assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump at a rally in PA. His ear was cut. Retired firefighter lost his life, someone who was attending the rally. And then the Secret Service killed the shooter, who was a white male, conservative, Second Amendment right advocate, white male from Pennsylvania.
Republican.
Yeah, Republican.
Okay, I heard you say conservative, but
conservative Republican.
Okay, thank you.
And I say that for a few reasons, because within minutes of this happening, I got the notification on my phone like 5 minutes after it happened. And I went right to Twitter, to Facebook to see what other people were talking about. And I saw, oh, this was Antifa. Oh, this is Black Lives Matter. Oh, this is Democrats. Oh, Joe Biden sent an assassin, right? That's the misinformation that was sent out right away. And it didn't help that you had people like the former president's own children retweeting this stuff. And then, of course, the picture of Biden, Trump putting his fists up in the air, which was very awkward to me. Because I've seen a president get whisked away for someone just shouting or threatening to have a weapon. They come up, push them right off stage. Come on, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. That's what they train for. For hours and hours on end. But for some reason, after he was shot, they stopped, surrounded him, let his full face be seen and visible, and then allowed him to put his fist up in the air before moving him off the stage. Now, I'll say this first off. I'm glad he is okay.
Okay.
I morally, ethically, and just down to my soul, I do not agree with anything Trump agrees with politically.
All right.
I think he is a white supremacist. I think he perpetuates fear into the heart of his supporters, and uses that to attack minority groups across this country, whether you are a minority race, gender, religion, sexual orientation. He has used it all to attack even individuals who are disabled. He has used to attack people who do not look like him. But with all that being said, I still don't want nothing to happen to him other than him lose an election, right? Because our democracy is supposed to be about the difference of thought, right? Having a debate on that, going out, rallying your base and getting them out to vote to see what vision they want to go, what track they want to go on. That's what democracy is supposed to be about. I could disagree with someone. I could debate them for hours on end. And how it used to be is once we finish, we can shake hands.
Right.
We can maybe even go get a meal together.
Right.
But recently that has changed in America. We are so hyper politicized right now. And I know people say, oh, you have the far right and the far left. One is about policy and one is about fear and hatred.
Right.
When you see a far left policy, right, quote unquote far left, and they're talking about something they get called socialist, right? Oh, we'll never have Medicare for all. Oh, we'll never have free food for all. Oh, we'll never have, why does everything have to be free for everyone? We live in a capitalist society. That's funny because we have free public schools. We have free roads, right? The roads and infrastructure is a socialist idea, right? We have the healthcare to a point free for some. Why is it that, another socialist idea that I don't agree with is jail. You don't have to pay to be in jail, but they've used that to enslave the black, right? The black men of this nation have been enslaved through jail. So again, that's far left. Far right policies shut down the border. Even though I'm an immigrant here, even though my parents came in very easily, we can't let those dark immigrants come in. That's what they say.
Right.
Right? But yet, the vast majority of immigrants, illegal immigrants here, undocumented immigrants here, are people who overstayed their visas.
Right.
People from European countries, not from the South. Oh, we can get involved with their politics down there and disrupt their government. But then when there's blowback and people need to migrate out of bad situations, oh, we don't want them to come here.
Yeah, but what I want to do is I want to push back just a little bit because I agree with you that there is too much hatred being spewed from both sides. Now, I know that you shared that one is about policy because that's your side, and the other one is about hatred. Honestly, we've not seen hatred to the level that we've seen it until Trump came on board. Trump is the perpetuator of really spewing
I think we have.
hatred. Well, it was more professional as a people. As a people, we know it was a lot of hatred going on because it was against us.
Correct.
But it was more professional, and then you had some people that could hold accountable.
I think you just didn't have the leader of the political
That's what I'm
movement
trying to
speaking
say.
out on it.
And that's why some of the politicians are going to have to, it's the political folks, the leaders, going to have to tone down what they're doing. Because honestly, whether you're far to the right or far to the left, we can disagree on policies. I disagree on closing the border down to immigrants. I believe that that's what this country is all about. This country is a melting pot. That's what they used to teach us in social, in civic.
They don't teach that no more.
But
that's critical race theory.
Well, that's what I've always been taught. So people come to this country, like the president's wife, come to this country because there's a better
But
opportunity.
she's allowed. She's light skinned.
Well,
According to Ron DeSantis and them, that's allowed down there in Florida. But if you're our complexion, that's not allowed. We can't teach
And
that
that's
y'all
the
came and did
hatred.
something good.
But now we're demonizing them. We go from a racist policy to now taking that racist policy and demonizing them. And that's where I'm running into problems. But we do it on both sides. Because it's one of the things that I know, even when we are upset with people in Wilmington, all too often, we hear the hatred that is coming out of the mouths of people and trying to try to literally kill. Shakespeare once said, "He who stealeth my purse stealeth trash, but he who robs me of my good name robs me of my deity and leaves me poor indeed." And what I read from that is that Shakespeare is saying sometimes people don't always take a gun and shoot you, but their words is just as powerful. So yes, sometimes it is policy, and other times it's outright hatred, and they want to demonize the people who they disagree with in policy. And yes, I'm going to admit that it's much stronger on the Republican side, especially right now with the leader spewing all of the hate that he spews. However, it's on both sides because I sit back and I say to myself, what in the world is going on with this person hating this person and this person calling this person out and creating all kind of havoc? This is not what America is supposed to be about.
No, I agree with you on that. And I think one of the things that we have to realize is, again, going back to the point that it is okay to disagree, right?
Absolutely.
And it does not mean you personally don't like someone, and hopefully that person doesn't take it personal because you disagree with them on policy, right? And I can use myself as an example, right? I disagree on policy with members of city council, with members of the county council, with members of the General Assembly all the time, right? And I know sometimes individuals take that personally, right? Yeah. Oh, I thought you were a friend, Coby. Well, no, this has nothing to do with our friendship. This has something to do with a policy that's going to affect a certain demographic of people. I have my job, you have your job. We have to come to a middle, right? It doesn't mean I don't like you personally, but it seems as though we have now got into this system in which people care more about their personal image than actually doing the jobs that they were elected to do. And that's where we get into the rough patches, right? And which we cannot just stand for, right? We have to be able to break that cycle. And again, one of the things, and I try to get a diverse news from both sides. I watch Fox News, I watch CNN, I watch MSNBC. I watch them all, right? One of the things that was said by one of the surrogates from the Trump's campaign was, we've never seen political violence until you had a leader like Trump speak out. That's what they said. And mind you, I'm sitting at my TV, still in a little bit of disbelief that this even happened. And I say, it's interesting because January 6th was not political violence in their eyes.
It should have been.
But yet you have multiple officers die. You had them trying to hang the current vice president and looking for the vice president-elect, a black woman who they wanted to hang. They executed Dr. King. They executed Malcolm X. They executed Medgar Evers. They executed so many black leaders of the movement. They killed the Kennedy brothers. Both of them.
Shot Reagan and a couple others,
But then also, yes, you had Reagan was also shot. You've had multiple presidents almost shot over the years. Lincoln is probably one of the most notable ones that everyone learns about, right? So, no, this is not new. But again, if you don't learn from your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Absolutely.
And I think when tensions get high, right? When the Kennedy brothers and Dr. King and Malcolm X and all of them were killed, the tensions were very high. It was hyper politicized. And it didn't just happen in that 3-year span. It was building for a long time. And this right here, this time that we're in right here, did not start in 2020, did not start in 2016. I would say it started back in 2007. People losing their homes. You have Donald Trump saying that a black man running for president isn't really a legal citizen. Where's his birth certificate? You had even Hillary Clinton making fun of black people, normalizing that, right? And then you fast forward. 4 years go past Obama's first term. They are mad as man could be that a black man who ain't have no scandal, didn't have multiple baby mamas, didn't have multiple outside children, didn't have, he was smooth with it. And when it was disagreement, he knew how to handle it in a articulate way and beat them at their own game. They was mad. Then he won election against the golden boy, Romney.
Yeah.
Mr. Money.
Yeah.
Then 2016 happened. And Trump said, I need to take it a step further. And from that time, we have slowly seen our democracy become under attack. Things that we hadn't seen in 50, 60 years now return as normal in America. And to be honest, for everyone watching that, everyone who's witnessed January 6th, who witnessed what happened this weekend, who has seen the political violence, who saw what happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband, to see the people who have threatened to kill members of Congress like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Maxine Waters, it has become normalized. But then also that trauma has become normalized. It's just another news cycle. We get used to it. And that's when it becomes, it goes from just a incident to becoming a public health epidemic with gun violence and violence in America. And that's what we need to start addressing, is how do we break that trauma normalization, and how do we break this hyper-politicized world that we live in?
And I shouldn't be a bad boy.
Right.
Because I'm supporting Velda.
Right.
And I'm going to destroy him. Or you shouldn't be a bad boy, or I shouldn't be a bad boy because I'm supporting John Carney. Because one of the things I was very concerned about with the surrogates debate is that I know Saran and I know Darren too. Both of them are good, decent people.
Absolutely.
Please understand that. And one of the things I almost said, I don't want to really bring this debate to the front when I found out, because I learned the day before who the surrogates would be. And I felt kind of bad because I said, you know what? People are going to try to demonize these brothers because both of them are in the professional realm.
Right.
Both of them are strong African Americans. One went to HBCU, the other one did not, but he's at HBCU now. And I didn't want to see the hurt and the harm and the demonization that people do when you decide you're going to go out on a position.
Right.
But I'm glad to know that both of them can hold their own.
Oh yeah.
And I was waiting to hear someone make comments because I knew both of them, and I was going to certainly defend both of them because we have a right. This is what democracy is about.
Right.
It's about you making the decision what you want to support, and then you support it. We're going to take a real quick commercial break, and I'm going to come back. And one of the things I want to talk to you about in the last 4 or 5 minutes we have remaining is Joe Biden. I mean, the Democratic Party, y'all get on my nerve. The Republicans can have a 34 indicted man, got 15 babies by 28 women, and they keep their candidate and they push their candidate forward, but not y'all. What are y'all doing? He gotta go. He gotta go. He's too old.
Some members.
Look, we'll be right back.
The world looks a whole lot different depending on where you stand.
Sure does.
From growing up in Wilmington to serving as a diplomat in a country devastated by war, starting 2 small businesses that created jobs, and teaching middle school math in neighborhoods that are too often overlooked and left behind. I'm Matt Meyer, and no matter where I stood, if something was broken, I've always tried to make it better. So when the insider said I had no shot against a 12-year incumbent, I ran for Newcastle County Executive anyway.
Gotta love an underdog.
Knocking on nearly 10,000 doors because our county looks different depending on where you stand, too.
Hey, Mr. Meyer, in our classroom, you always made us show our work.
We put the county checkbook online in the first 6 months to show where your tax dollars are going. We are making our county cleaner and greener, investing in early childhood and mental health services. Started 1,000 kids coding to give low-income students high-income skills. And we created the Hope Center, helping thousands of people get off the streets and into homes. Now, as too many families struggle with the rising costs of housing and healthcare, too many communities go without clean air and clean water. And our schools rank 46th in the nation. I know we can do better, because we should be a state where every kid gets a great education, where every family has a safe neighborhood they can afford to call home, and every woman makes decisions about her own body.
You got that right.
I'm Matt Meyer, and I'm running for governor so that no matter where you stand, we can all see a brighter future.
Don't forget the website.
And we're back. Real quick, you know, I left a little emotional when we just had the last segment. But why are y'all that way?
So, just for everyone, I am the vice chair of the Democratic Party here in the state. I'm a DNC member, and I'm fully behind President Biden. Do I agree with all his politics? No. Absolutely. And I just said that is okay, right? Yes. I could probably name of the 475 of us on the DNC, I could probably name maybe 2 or 3 people who fully agree with him on everything. But when it comes to where we're at right now, we have to be very honest. President Biden had a horrible debate.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
Egregious, yes.
That's what it was. I think what has happened now is you have the media who is taking that and demonizing him, trying to change people's minds. I have good relationship with all 3 of our delegation, our federal delegation. All 3 of them have said that they're still with Biden. You have other members of Congress who are out for themselves. All they care about is getting reelected. The Steph Maltons of the world, the Jared Goldens of the world, who are in tough districts, all they care about is how do I make sure my paycheck keeps going? So they have come out and said, oh, he needs to drop out, he needs to go. Some of Biden's strongest supporters who are saying he's the nominee is people like Bernie Sanders.
Shockingly. And that's the right, that's the left. That's strictly on the other side of the fence.
Most leftist
he's not
of
one
the 535 members down there.
Yeah, I was shocked to see that.
He's like the top 5.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and like I just said at the beginning of this segment, Bernie does not agree with everything Biden has done and Biden is pushing, right? But he understands that there is ground to be made up when you have a President Biden versus a President Trump, right? And that's where I need people to understand. And when I'm out there, right, doing my party stuff, talking to my members, talking to just everyday Democratic voters and reminding them, listen, this is so much bigger than just one person, right? This is about stopping a plan to strip away rights of not only you and me, but of women, of the LGBT, of non-Christian faith believers, right? It's a systematic plan to strip it all away. They want to take away the Department of Education. They want to get rid of the Department of Energy. They want to have more fossil fuel, which impacts Black and brown communities because they're not pitting these refineries in white suburban areas. They put them in places like the Route 9 area that causes cancer, that causes your right to clean air and clean water to be stripped away from you. To get rid of all that. Oh, we'll put a bull advisory in. No. That's what this is about.
Yeah, but you know what? Let me add to that so that we can be very clear. I think it's even deep. We just had somebody on to Coffee with Curry today talking about the clean air and things of that nature. But I'm going to tell you something that's a little bit more where I'm at. I think you need to leave Joe alone, because when you keep bothering Joe, you gave all that other stuff for why people want Joe to get out of the way so Trump can get in. But even if Joe is too old and Joe transitioned while in office, who would become the president?
The Vice President, Kamala Harris.
And that's the real issue.
They're scared a black woman would be president here.
Now you have said it, you have articulated, as one of my professors would say, well. And that's the real issue. The real issue, listen, right now, yes, we are facing a situation where if we didn't get Biden together, and I think he's been doing pretty good the last couple of weeks since that debate, but Trump could just walk in easily. But that ain't gonna happen now. But the whole purpose for demonizing Biden right now is to make sure Kamala does not get in that position. We got rid of the first woman anyway who wanted to do it, who really thought she was in, and now it's a black woman. Ain't gonna happen. So for all of you who are paying attention, you better stick with Joe. But I did notice that the Black Caucus and they stayed with him because I think they saw that writing on the wall. None of us want Trump to get in so they can get rid of all these policies and things that we got going for us. But they saw that writing on the wall.
I'm going to keep talking about it because this Project 2025.
Oh, yes.
It's a 900-page document. Yeah. I've read maybe about 500 pages of it so far, right? And it's almost like torture to me reading this, right? Because it gets me so upset, but I know I need to be well informed on exactly what they're trying to do, because you really don't know what may happen in this election. So you better start preparing yourself now on how to fight back against this stuff. But their worst nightmare is women having their own independence, and being able to do what they want. And one of those things is you cannot have a woman president.
She's not bought the same way that a man is.
That would destroy them internally. Yeah. That the highest ranking person, the voice of this country on a global stage, is a woman.
Yeah.
While at the same time, they are systematically trying to take away their right to reproductive justice. You have this plan that's backed by millions of dollars. To push these narratives and try to win votes. Yeah. To try to convince people that this is the better way of life. It's not. Yeah. And I think we have to remember what the president and the vice president have done for us already in one of these slimmest margin Congresses ever.
Yeah. He did what he said he was going to do. He said he was going to bring people together, and he did. And even when the Republican Party was ready to be on fire again, it was the Democrats that was able to calm the Raven Sea and vote and keep that Speaker of the House. And it's just that we have a short time memory. Trump is really, really scary. And I know we need to start piping down our language so that we won't get people angry. But one of the things I was grateful for, I don't want nothing to happen to him. Nothing. Because he's somebody's father, he's somebody's husband. He's somebody's hero. But I constantly say didn't want anything to happen to him. But one of the things I want to keep, and forget my but, because the people will say when you say but, that means you don't really believe everything else you said. One of the things that keeps nagging at me is that this gentleman, this person who shot him was a Republican. Yep. He was a conservative Republican. And he exercised all of his rights. Now, no one really wants to talk about that. They still want to believe that Motifa did it. They still want to believe that Obama sent it. They want to, and it's because this is the kind of behavior that he has perpetrated. But at the end of the day, I look forward to the report. They're not going to believe the report. You know what you're going to say? Oh, no. Fake news. Fake news. But Project 25, we're going to talk about that more in the show because we really want to start getting to some of these points. It is outright horrific. We're way out of time today. I hope we were able to get some of this stuff in the show. But listen, it has been a joy being with you today. It's a joy with Coby. Every time we get together, we just get to talking and we run out of time. But listen, until the next time, God bless you and I'll see you.
Take care, y'all.